This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. The Manitoba government says it is working to reduce wait times at the St. Boniface Hospital Emergency Department. Today, the Premier and Health Minister announced a plan to add 36 beds to the hospital. As the CBC's Alana Cole reports, accomplishing that will take time.
Manitoba's health minister says they're taking a phased approach, working to add 36 acute care beds at St. Boniface Hospital over the next year, starting with 10 beds in March. Uzoma Azaguara says it's a $13 million commitment.
There are many different approaches we're taking to this. We're reaching out to students, we're retaining staff in our healthcare system, we're recruiting and training more healthcare workers, but ultimately all of that work is going to be done together to make sure it's successful.
St. Boniface Hospital emergency physician Dr. Paul Ratana was at the news conference. This afternoon, the wait time posted online for that ER was over 13 hours. Here's what he had to say about staff morale.
I can tell you that we've had better days. We worked through the pandemic. We continue to work through these challenges. We're optimistic that things will get better, and we're hopeful that these kinds of announcements are those kinds of steps that will get us to a better place.
Ratana says there are many days virtually all the beds in emergency are occupied by patients waiting for beds in other wards. He says that wait can be hours, in some cases days. He calls the addition of these new acute care beds a first step in helping to reduce wait times and build capacity.
The inability to move patients previously seen and admitted is, in my experience, the #1 reason that wait times are excessive. We refer to that as access block, and it prevents patients from getting out of the waiting room and into treatment places.
The health minister was asked how they're going to find people to staff the beds. They say they will be talking more about staffing initiatives in the weeks ahead. In the meantime, the Premier and Health Minister say they're going to continue listening to healthcare workers. They plan to be back at St. Boniface Hospital tomorrow to meet with frontline staff. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, as we mentioned last night, the RCMP is now collecting race-based data in some communities across the country. A pilot project started this month aims to help the force better understand the experiences of people from racialized communities. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, there are many questions about how this information will be collected.
She's retired now, but Marge Hudson of Barons River First Nation served 31 years with the RCMP. Hudson says she faced racism and harassment when she was an officer, despite being asked to help improve relations in the northern Manitoba communities she worked in after being hired in 1979.
And it goes back like 150 years, you know, with residential school.
The RCMP launched a pilot project Monday in select communities, including Thompson. It's collecting race-based data to better understand experiences of Indigenous, Black, and other racialized people when it comes to the interactions they have with frontline RCMP officers. It will focus on use of force, wellness checks, and arrests.
They're going to have to go through some special training and have Native people in the academy teaching them.
It comes after former Commissioner Brenda Lucki acknowledged systemic racism exists. Winnipeg-based criminal defense lawyer Zilla Jones says it's a start.
But some of my concerns are, I guess, a lack of specifics.
Jones is concerned not all racialized communities will be represented in the pilot. She says it's important the data is broken down to represent specific groups of people.
We need to see what is happening with Black individuals. We need to see what is happening with Middle Eastern individuals. We need to see what's happening with different groups of people.
The RCMP didn't make anyone available for an interview Wednesday. The Mounties say the data will be collected for 1 year before it's analyzed and the findings are reported publicly. In a prepared news release, RCMP Commissioner Mike Duham says it's about becoming a more modern and inclusive policing organization. The initiative isn't about singling out individuals, he says. It's about helping us identify and improve our policies, practices, and training to better support our employees. The evidence-based solutions it provides can empower us to better serve communities. Ontario requires police forces to collect race-based data. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew wouldn't say whether it should be required here, but supports efforts by law enforcement to improve relationships.
With an eye towards ensuring that there's equity, and especially equity when it comes to people feeling safe in the community.
I'm hoping that there will be change.
Hudson filed a lawsuit against the RCMP over systemic racism stemming from her experiences, but still has hope the Mounties can change. Josh Krebs, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Google search for the term old white guy made a University of Manitoba professor the face of a cryptocurrency scam. His story is part of a new Netflix documentary, Bitconned. The CBC's Zubina Ahmed explains.
Hello, I'm Michael Edwards, founder and CEO of Centratech.
Is that who you really are?
No, that's not who I really am. I'm Dr. Andrew Haleko. I'm a professor at the University of Manitoba.
A professor who knows nothing about cryptocurrency was the face of it. Andrew Haleko is a research scientist in the Department of Physiology and Pathophysiology. His picture was used in a crypto scam, which recently turned into a Netflix documentary called Bitconned.
They asked me during the interviewing, do you know what Ethereum is? Do you know what cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is? And no, I had no idea. I still, to this day, don't fully understand the concept.
Bitcoin delves into the rise and fall of a crypto company called Centratech. His photo was used by scammers in the US who wanted a trustworthy-looking face as their fake CEO. So they Googled old white guy, and Haleko's face popped up.
Even my 90-year-old mother, I watched it, and she texted me and said, she just quoted old white guy, which, as you know, is how they found my picture. They Googled old white guy, and there I was.
Haleko wonders, with all the search results, why did they choose him?
When I was doing the filming for the documentary, they asked me something similar, like, if you could meet them, what would you ask? And I said I would ask them, why me? Like, of the millions, hundreds of millions, I don't know, of pictures of men with glasses and a little bit of gray hair, why'd they pick me?
Haleko first heard about the scam in May 2019, when he was contacted by an RCMP detective. He eventually gave a witness statement to the FBI, and the case was closed. He says around February 2022, Netflix contacted him.
Spent essentially a full day with them, filming them, interviewing, and taking pictures, et cetera, et cetera.
Since the documentary was released on January 1st, Haleko has been getting a lot of messages from friends and family. He says he doesn't mind his 15 minutes of fame and jokes.
I could jokingly say I'm going to, look for a movie deal alongside Tom Cruise for my next film endeavor, but that would be a lie.
Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba has revoked the province's highest honor, the Order of the Buffalo Hunt, to Ferdinand Eckhart, a former director of the Winnipeg Art Gallery. The decision comes one day after CBC News asked the province if it intended to take action. A recent article published in the Walrus magazine included research showing while living in Germany in the 1930s, Eckhart was a Nazi supporter.
This is a person who, to speak very frankly, pledged an oath of allegiance to Hitler. And he has no place being honored in the public sphere here in Manitoba.
Premier Wab Kinew says he stroked out Eckhart's name with a pen in the leather-bound book which lists all honorees. Kinew didn't want to remove the name completely because he'd like future generations to know the history. Eckhart's name is also being scrubbed from the Winnipeg Art Gallery because he was a Nazi supporter in Germany in the 1930s. Sadly, every year, dozens of people are injured or worse, killed in fires in Winnipeg. Now, firefighters want to change the way they try to prevent that and to prevent the fires themselves. CBC's Cameron McLean reports.
There's probably about 6 suites here at this particular house, and apparently one of the tenants went ahead and started a fire in his suite.
Daryl Warren is the president of the William White Neighbourhood Association. He watched as this rooming house burned to the ground last month. He wants the city to change its approach to fire prevention.
And I think they need to work with landlords more to go ahead and make these properties safe. And there's good landlords, there's bad landlords, and unfortunately, the bad ones, there's a risk of loss of life there.
While residential fires account for most injuries and deaths, the city has devoted a significant amount of resources to inspecting industrial buildings. The policy was made in response to the 2012 Speedway International fire that cost $15 million in damage. But now the city says it's more concerned with fires in multifamily buildings like this one on Stradbrook, which caught fire in August. Lisa Gilmore with the Fire Paramedic Service says the city is also focusing on rooming houses and homeless encampments.
And that's really where we're seeing more fires and where we're seeing a lot of injuries and deaths associated with those fires. So that's where we're looking to put our resources on the inspections. Over
the 7-year period from 2015 to 2022, by far the most fires occurred in multi-unit apartment buildings, more than 4 times as many as industrial. Councillor Evan Duncan, Chair of Community Services, supports the change in focus.
And hopefully we will have less tragic stories of people losing their place that they're living, that they're potentially loss of life, any of that. Hopefully this mitigates that.
A fire inside this rooming house on Flora Avenue led to the death of 1 person last April. By stepping up inspections of rooming houses like this, as well as high-rise apartments and homeless encampments, the city hopes to prevent further loss of life. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A federal wildlife biologist is warning the city of Winnipeg not to allow people to feed and shelter feral cats. Winnipeg is considering changes to its Responsible Pet Ownership Act. Those changes would allow community groups or individuals to trap and neuter stray cats and then return them to their colonies. That's currently not allowed without a threat of being fined. Advocates argue the changes would help curb the feral cat population in Winnipeg. But Paulson DeBrace with Environment and Climate Change Canada told a city committee today feral cats kill billions of birds, reptiles, and other small mammals every year. He says evidence shows trap, neuter, and release programs do not work.
Numerous studies have shown that it fails to actually reduce feral cat populations, both due to ongoing immigration from other areas and residents utilizing these locations to abandon unwanted cats and encouraging the idea that cats should be permitted to roam outdoors.
DeBray says the city should step up enforcement on the feeding and releasing of unwanted cats rather than removing the bylaw against it. He says the city should eliminate feral cat colonies through adoption and also humane euthanasia. Time now to check on your weather. Ethan Williams joins us with a look at the forecast, and it's a snowy one.
Well, thanks, Janet. And yeah, the snow is on its way to much of southern Manitoba over these next couple of days here, and we're already seeing it on radar through portions of the Parkland region around Dauphin and the Riding Mountain area into Brandon, and that system likely only going to intensify over these next couple of days. We have snowfall warnings in place for that part of the province where you'll also be seeing blowing snow at times. Total amounts probably 10 to 15 centimeters. For Winnipeg and much of the Red River Valley, we're expecting about the same amount of snow, but it's over a little longer period period of time, so not quite in the criteria for a snowfall warning, but that's why the special weather statement is in effect for our area. So here's how things are likely going to play out. Overnight tonight and through the next few hours here, heavier snow moving through western sections of the province. Winnipeg in the Red River Valley, it gets to us early in the morning, kind of in the overnight hours, I think is when we're going to see our heaviest snowfall. Still going by the morning hours, but tapering off through the day, likely, and even just some remnants of this system late tomorrow night before things finally clear out as we head into Friday. Another system moving in from Saskatchewan, though, could bring a few flurries, light snow to the southwest, and some more snow possible for northern Manitoba over these next couple of days. So overnight tonight, again, in the 5 to 10 centimeter range. We could locally, by later into Saturday, see as much as maybe 15 to 20 centimeters in portions of southern Manitoba, specifically along the Trans-Canada corridor, something to watch there. And then, of course, we're also seeing winds pick up as well, causing that blowing snow. Could be in excess of 50 kilometers an hour tomorrow afternoon. Things staying gusty through these next couple of days, and that means that likely visibility is going to be impacted as well. Could be less than a kilometer at times through the night tonight and into tomorrow morning. So just a heads up on the commute. Of course, if you're heading out on highways tomorrow, we start to see some gradual improvement, though, as we get into tomorrow afternoon. So for Winnipeg, overnight tonight at midnight, light snow starting to intensify around -8, and then our temperature sharply dropping as the cold air starts to move in after that. By 8 a.m., we're only down to -16. Wind chill making it feel closer to -30, and then by the afternoon, those winds possibly in excess of 40 kilometers an hour, temperature down around -17, snow starting to taper off. And then into Friday, that's when we might actually see a little bit of clearing in the Winnipeg area, but our temperature's not improving from there, just dropping. And yes, by Saturday, we could be feeling, Janet, down into the -30s with the wind chill. I'll have your full provincial forecast coming up.
Thank you very much. Well, we're deep into winter now, but look at this, a flower show like no other. It opens to the public at the Leaf in Assiniboine Park tomorrow, but we're going to give you a sneak peek tonight, a glimpse at summer. Marjorie Dowhouse will join us live to tell us more about it after the break. If you're someone who'd enjoy visiting botanical gardens around the world, boy, do we have a treat for you tonight. A taste and a smell of gardens around the world. A sneak peek at Fleur de Ville Voyage Showcase at Assiniboine Park's The Leaf. CBC's Marjorie Dowhouse joins us now live from inside this beautiful show. Marjorie, how is it?
Well, Janet, words can really not explain just how beautiful it is. If you've seen pictures, you can see the designs and the dresses on the mannequins and the flowers, but you actually have to see in person just how much detail goes into the work here. I'm joined now by Tina Barkley, who is one of the co-founders of Fleur de Ville. Well, hello, Tina.
Hello.
A warm Winnipeg welcome to you. I know you came in the middle of a snowstorm, but tell us a little bit about Fleur de Ville for people who have never experienced it or heard of it before. What is it?
Well, we're based in Vancouver, but we take our shows all over the world, and really what we do is we bring flowers to the people. We spread joy through flowers, and what we try to do is celebrate local floral talents. So what's really special about the show is that each installation is designed by a local floral artist, so a different florist for each thing that you see here today.
What inspired you to do this? You and your co-founder, Karen, came up with this idea. What inspired that?
Do you know what? Flowers mark every major milestone in our lives, from birth to death. We celebrate with flowers. And I think everybody has a connection to flowers, whether it's your grandmother's garden or something you planted as a child. I think flowers just make everyone happy. There's a real connection to flowers and nature. And we thought there's nothing in the world, even something like the Chelsea Flower Show, is not all about flowers. We took the best of all those flower type things and we tried to create something, and we have created something that's become a bit of a worldwide phenomenon.
I want to know about, because when you take a closer look at the mannequins that are on display here at The Leaf, you can see the detail, you can see the work that goes into it. Tell us a little bit more about how you work with the florists to come up with what we're seeing here tonight.
It's an incredible process and planning process, because a lot of florists, bouquets, weddings, it's a one-day thing or a couple of day thing if it's a bouquet. So there's a lot of mechanics involved. So there's the theme, which is voyage. So each mannequin takes you on a trip or to a different destination, and it's about telling a story about that destination, not just pretty flowers, so people will learn something, but how do they design something that will both wow, like you say, what are the details? What can we bring to life using only botanical materials? And then how do we make that survive? And of course, the flowers are changed over. We have lots of refreshing that goes on. So you don't have to all rush here on day one. You can come to the Leaf on day 1, day 3, day 10. It's on until the 21st of January. And we're constantly keeping on top of that.
Because I was going to ask you about that, because these are real live flowers, real live plants that are on these mannequins. How do you make them survive? And it sounds like the florists have to change them out.
They do, but it's also what's under the dress. We say, what's under the dress? And there's a lot of mechanics and things that are going on underneath. There has to be a water source for fresh flowers. If people use a prop, like you'll see on the Moroccan mannequin, she's used some lanterns because it's so much a part of the Casbah type look. But I said, you can use that, but it's got to be covered in botanicals. Well, it's an intricate lacy type ironwork. She sprayed it and then it has dipped it in paprika, and one is dipped in curry, like a spice market. So very creative ideas. So you'll see mostly flowers, but there's also other interesting bits, like from beans to lentils to puffed lotus. It's very cool.
And last, I want to ask you, finally brought it here to Winnipeg. Yes. People are so excited for this. What made you decide that it should come here to Winnipeg?
That is an easy answer. It's this facility. The Assiniboine Park Conservancy is such an incredible venue. I feel so lucky that this is here in Canada. We are totally honored to be here and to have this be our home here in Winnipeg. So we've always wanted to take it to different cities in Canada, but this was a slam dunk. I mean, it is absolutely at home here amongst all the other plants in the biome.
Well, being here, I forgot that we were in the middle of a winter storm.
I know, you would never know. I know. Me either. You forget there's snow out there. Yeah, definitely.
Well, Tina, thank you so much again, and enjoy Winnipeg. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for coming and seeing the show.
That is Tina Barkley, one of the co-founders of Fleur de Ville. It is on display here at The Leaf at Assiniboine Park all the way till January 21st. Janet?
Thank you so much. CBC's Marjorie Dowhouse reporting live. A 19-year-old international student from Nigeria has been shot and killed by police. After the break, we examine the level of trust between police and newcomers in Winnipeg. An important conversation from both perspectives in its entirety after the break. Well, Winnipeg's certainly seen its share of snow today, but nothing like other parts of the province. Let's check in again with Ethan Williams, who joins us with a look at the Manitoba forecast.
Thanks, Janet. Yeah, and in the short term, we're going to be dealing with the snowfall, but of course, the cold air going to be what comes next. A portion of the polar vortex, usually up near the North Pole, sinking down. You can see just how low the jet stream drops here, far down into the U.S., where they've been dealing with unseasonal cold conditions there as well. But there will be some reprieve as we start next week, so warmer temperatures to come. But in the meantime, the snow is the story. Overnight tonight in northwestern Ontario, probably about 2, maybe 4 centimeters as that system starts to move into your area. Temperatures not too bad overnight tonight as that cloud cover and that system itself keep you a little bit warmer. For Winnipeg and for much of southeastern Manitoba, again, this is when we're going to see our heaviest snow, probably 5 to 10 centimeters overnight tonight. Temperatures generally in between -15 and -20, dropping pretty quickly as we head toward the morning hours. And again, if you're in the southern Interlake area, probably some gusty conditions going to be causing some visibility problems as well. And that's the same through Brandon and much of Westman and through the Parkland region, where we're seeing, again, 5 to 10 centimeters. For much of the Parkland region, overnight tonight, you will have already seen much of the snow. It's already fallen. So really, this is just kind of the last little bit of the system that will be moving through for you overnight tonight. For the north, not as much the issue with snow as it is with the cold, minus 25 to minus 30 generally. If you're closer to the Saskatchewan border, though, where there are extreme cold warnings in effect, you're going to really see that temperature drop into the minus 30s in the Lynn Lake area. A bit of clearing sky is going to cool things down, making it feel closer to minus 45 at some times. A little bit of snow still possible in sections tomorrow, especially the further south you are in northern Manitoba. But those temperatures, boy, they are cold, and they're going to remain that way through these next few days here. For southwestern Manitoba, again, a little bit of clearing even possible through areas like Brandon and closer to the U.S. border, Morden, Winkler, Melita, probably seeing a little bit of sunshine tomorrow, but through the Parklands, still a little bit of snow, but the bulk of it out of the way. It's really as we move into southeastern Manitoba and through the Red River Valley, where that system is still moving through, and another 2 to 4, maybe locally 5 centimeters possible. Winds picking up, so especially if you're in outlying areas, highway travel going to be a little bit treacherous with the snow and the blowing snow. For northwestern Manitoba, or for northwestern Ontario rather, looking for probably 2 to 4 centimeters as that system starts to hit you kind of last, and temperatures actually not all that bad for tomorrow, around seasonal for this time of year. Your full Winnipeg 7-day forecast is coming up.
Looking forward to it, Ethan. Thank you. The fatal shooting of a 19-year-old international student of Falabi Apaso by Winnipeg police upset many Manitobans, but Dalil Loco says he wasn't surprised. He sat down with Weekend Morning Show host Nadia Kidwai and former Winnipeg Police Chief Devon Clunas to discuss a lack of trust between racialized communities and police. Tonight, we bring you their important conversation.
So Dalil, what was your reaction when you heard about the death of Afolabi?
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because it's happened before in Canada, so it wasn't like the first time, you know. But it's a lot of pain and anger and frustration. But I wasn't surprised.
Why weren't you surprised?
Yeah, like I said, because it happens. It's something that we've gotten to a point like we used to, you know, because it happens a lot. So when it happens, it happens. So it's not a surprise, really. Like, oh, really? Because you know it's something that you're used to. It's kind of like not being surprised when you find a paycheck in your account because you know it's coming. You know what I mean?
Devon, I want to get to your reaction about the news of the death. But when you hear Dalil say that he wasn't surprised that this happened, and Dalil, I'm assuming you're saying you're not surprised that a black man got shot by police.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's your reaction to that, first of all?
Well, first I just want to start by saying my condolences to the Apaso family. Like, it's just tragic. But hearing Dalil say that, it also saddens me because, you know, when I heard that, I'm always surprised. I don't expect that to be happening. So I never wanted to get to that place. And it's sad. And this is not criticizing you. I'm saying it's sad that anyone has to not be surprised by something like that. I don't want us to live in a society when we hear something so tragic that it doesn't shock us. I can tell you when I first heard of the shooting, and first I heard it was a 19-year-old student, my heart just sank. And then I heard it was a 19-year-old student from Nigeria. My heart sank even more because right away I go to the tragedy for that family. So far away and to receive that call. So all those things go through my mind. So I hear what you're saying. I want us to get to the point, Dalil, where, you know, every time we hear something like that, we should be shocked. We shouldn't expect it to happen. And that's what we need to work at. Yes. So I hear you clearly.
Yeah. Like I was shocked. I want to be very clear. I don't want the listeners to get me wrong. I was shocked, but I'm saying I wasn't surprised because this happens a lot. So it's not like the first time. When something happens for the first time, you get surprised or it's because it's something you didn't expect. But this is something we expect to happen. So when it happens, we are shocked, we are devastated, we are angry, you know, we are frustrated, but we are not surprised because this is something that's going on. So it's becoming a normality in the community where it's like when you hear somebody, now we get surprised if someone was tased or someone was just put in handcuffs. Because like, oh, really? He took that time. But the shooting is not something we're very surprised because it's happening. You know? So I'm not saying I'm not shocked. I am shocked. I'm very devastated. But I'm saying the police has made it a normality in our community to shoot and kill black men.
So I hear you.
Yes.
But I would say at the same time, and this is the place I don't want us to get to.
Yes.
Where we believe that the police have made it a normal behavior to shoot and kill black people. I think when you look at the number of incidents that occur on an ongoing basis, we never hear of the incidents that end, you know, in a good way. We hear of the dramatic ones. Yes. And so I do hear you. And that's why I really want to thank you for having this conversation, Nadia, because I don't think we're having enough of these very open, honest, transparent conversations. Say, yes, it's tragic, but that is not the normal behavior and practice of police. And hear me clearly, I'm not defending the police. No. Where I want us to get to is a place where, as a community, when something like this happens, we grieve together and we have a better understanding of what's taking place in our community. Because, yes, we see this and it's in the media, but I have to tell you, this is not the normalcy for policing, but we see the big ones when they do happen. Go ahead.
I want to acknowledge, right? I want to really acknowledge that there's a lot of good policemen out there. There's a lot of cops. I want to acknowledge that. And there's a few bad ones. Now, I'm saying we want all of them to be good because I don't know who's going to stop me when I come from the radio. You see what I mean? So I'm speaking here saying, I'm not saying all the police is bad. I've had good interactions with the police, but I'm saying there is some who are using their power, you know, wrongly. So that's what I'm trying to say. So, Devon, you know that I'm not saying all the police are bad, but I'm saying what happened, right? This job, like you serve and protect. You can't protect when you kill. Do we agree on that? So I'm saying if you're going to serve and protect, you should have done you have done everything you could before you shoot. 3 bullets is a lot, Mr. Devon. Do you agree on that? 3 bullets, you want to kill somebody. You could shoot the leg and make the person fall down. Why do you have to shoot and kill? So these are the questions we have in our community. We don't have answers yet, right? So I'm sitting here just to say, I acknowledge that the police, there's a lot of good police, and I want to acknowledge that we live in a country where we can come and criticize the police on national radio, and you know, I'll go home safe and not get shot and killed. Where I come from, you can't do that. So I acknowledge that, and I'm grateful to be in this country. But I'm saying there has to be some changes.
So, again, I hear you fully.
Yes.
And what we never want to do is prejudge what occurred there until the full investigation has taken place.
That's true.
So if we're saying that in this incident it was a bad police, we don't know that. Again, no pass. I'm not giving the police a pass. I'm saying we need to wait to find out what all the facts are before we get to that place.
Yes.
Do we ever want to see a young person killed like that? No, but we don't know all the details.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, we need to look at exactly what occurred. And if changes needs to be made, absolutely, I'm on board with you.
Yeah.
Let's make those changes. But sometimes what happens is that we rush to judgment right away, and it becomes very visceral. And in a tragic situation like this, we don't do everything we can to make sure that we arrive at a better outcome for the entire family. I would like to say I really appreciate the way the community, by and large, is handling this event. I really want to thank, young Mr. Quilu, who is the counsel for the family, in terms of how they're leading the family and the community through this. I think Winnipeg is doing a tremendous job, but that doesn't mean that we shy away from any difficult findings that might come, but I don't want us to prejudge an event like this right away.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to let you know there's a lot of people who would like to protest about this, but we're very scared.
Yes.
I want to be very honest about that, because we've been talking about this. Some of us want to get posters and go to City Hall, but again, we remember we are still black. We could lose another person in the protest. We don't say it's going to happen, but we're already scared. There's a lot of paranoia right now. So yes, I'm very happy that my community is taking this in a very quiet, calmly manner, but it's not because they want to. They would like to be on the streets right now, but again, we don't know what's going to happen if you do that. I'm not saying something bad might happen, but we don't want to risk it. So we're not really calm because we want to, but there's a lot of being smart and trying to not upset maybe the police, maybe us. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things going on. That's what I'm saying. Like, everything's not looking the way it is. And you said you don't know if the police did it is on the right or wrong. Nobody knows that. But what we know is someone 19 years old was killed. That's what we know. Now, I'm coming on this radio because someone died. I'm not saying the police is wrong, but I'm saying They could have tased this guy.
Can we talk about that? Like Dalil's mentioned a couple of times, because I think some people are asking, did you have to shoot to kill? Like, weren't there other options that could have happened? And I'm sure you get those questions a lot, Devon.
That's part of what I think we don't do a very good job of in terms of explaining what might occur in an event like that. People are saying right away, you could have tased. Again, I wasn't there.
Of course. We can only speculate, but I think the questions are fair.
Typically,
and so how
in a situation, again, yes, there are situations where you can tase, but I will never say they could have in the situation. 3 bullets, you say, we don't know exactly what occurred. But in terms of people often say, why didn't you shoot an arm or a leg? And I really would like to put citizens through this. When you're in a situation like that, it's very difficult to say you're going to target an arm or a leg. We're trained to shoot for center mass, not because you're trying to kill someone, because that's the largest part of the body. It's really unfortunate. That's where all of our critical organs are. Police don't train simply to kill someone. They train to stop a threat to either themselves or someone else. So no police officer puts on their uniform today and say, today I'm going to go out and I'm going to kill someone. They take the job simply because they want to protect. Now they find themselves in a challenging situation. As I said, we're not going to judge this particular event, but I want people to know the reason why police officers become police officers is because they truly want to serve and protect, and they'll put themselves in harm's way. So when something tragic like this occurs, all I'm simply saying that we don't want to immediately believe that there's some malicious intent, but let's wait for the findings and see what they tell us. And if changes need to be made, by all means, let's make changes, absolutely.
That is former Winnipeg Police Chief Devon Clunas in conversation with Dalil Loka and CBC's Nadia Kidwai. The rest of their conversation after the break. We continue our conversation now about the lack of trust between Winnipeg's racialized communities and police. Here are Dalil Loka and former Winnipeg Police Chief Devon Clunas with CBC's Nadia Kidwai.
Devon, you've lived your life both as a black man, as an immigrant, and as a police officer, right? Mm-hmm. So when you hear news of this, right, and you talked about how your first reaction was, of course, about the tragedy of the loss of life, but you must also think about what this is going to do to relations between racialized communities and the police.
Well, absolutely. I remember in 1987, when I applied to become a police officer, it was all about building a relationship between police and the community. I had never seen a black police officer in our city. I do a lot of work right now across the United States and our country trying to build that relationship. But I think it's also important for us to appreciate. And I love the fact that you pointed out the fact that you feel good being in Canada. You can come on and you can criticize authority and the police. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. A lot of people are here simply because of that. We often hear the argument that there's this really bad relationship between people and the racialized community. Yeah. Well, the most recent stats that came up from StatsCan at the end of last year, in November, shows that the vast majority of racialized communities, immigrants, actually have strong confidence in the police. I'm not saying they all do. Yeah. But really, typically what we feed is the negative, and the majority of us start to believe that must be the reality, when in fact it's not. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's work to be done. But we need to realize that a lot of the racialized communities, and especially new immigrants, have a lot of trust in the police. Some don't, but most do.
Let's talk about that, because you did share that study with me, and we'll post it for our audience. So, 48% of black communities have confidence in the police, but that compared to non-racialized people that who experience a much higher level, 64%. So black communities do have a lesser degree of confidence in the police than non-racialized.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Mr. Devon, I want you to understand. I'm going to speak from my experience. When I met you, I don't know, 2015, 2016 at the conference, and I met you, and you started talking to me as Dalil, not as a police officer, even if you're still the chief of police. It changed my perspective on the police. So there's a lot of black people who have confidence in police, because there's people like you and your friends who come out in the community and talk about your jobs and talk about how you're here to protect and serve. So the reason why that number 48 is still not a lot compared to 100, but I'm saying there is that confidence because there's some good policemen who still come to our games. I told you we have summer games and police come and sit with us and have coffee with us. That brings the perspective that these people are also humans like us. But what I'm saying is, just because people like you come out and do those jobs and people have that confidence in police, we don't see ourselves in the police. We don't have people of color in the police. How many? I haven't seen a lot around. So what I'm saying is, we have to diversify the police. Like you guys have to make sure there's people of color, brown people. There's, you know what I mean? We don't have that.
Dalil,
I agree.
Do you trust the police?
Who, me personally?
Yeah.
A little bit.
And that's a fair answer.
Yeah. But I'm not gonna say that if I was stopped, and it happened to me before, I was pulled over 3 a.m. I was really scared because I didn't know. I knew I had insurance. I knew I have my driver's license. I knew everything was good, up to par. But the truth is, I was very nervous. He could think I had something in my car, because that's how much of, I don't know how scary we look at when the police stops you, even when they come to your house to talk to you, you think you did something wrong. Most of the times in our community, that's the case. So I trust the police a little bit because of people like you, because of your friends who come to our communities. But the truth is, if I was to meet a cop by myself, I am very scared.
Tell us a little bit about your experiences with police?
Personally,
yeah.
I'm going to say this. I used to have a BMW, right? My friend, it was not even a newer model. It was like a 2009 BMW, right? And I'm driving this car. I promise you, every week, at least once a week, I would get stopped. They wouldn't tell me why. They would ask for license registration, and if I gave it to them, they would let me go. At least once a week, until the car was sold. And now I'm driving, something I've never gotten stopped. So now I look back and think about it. Was it because of the BMW? I don't know. But nothing. I'm not going to sit on the radio and say they did anything to me. They threatened. No. But they would stop me at least once a week for 3 months. Once a week. You see what I mean? So then it brings the question, am I not, did I look like a criminal driving a BMW? Do I look so young to own a BMW? Is it because I'm black? These are the questions we ask because we don't know, right? So if the statistics are right, but we also have to remember those statistics are made by, we don't know who's I don't know who's making the statistics, right? We don't know how transparent they are, right?
That is fair. But what I'm hearing what you're saying,
yes,
you're actually pointing out some things that we in policing can do better. You talked about the relationship piece.
Yes.
Right. One of the challenges we have in the city, and I think in policing generally speaking right now, is that, and I don't think most people recognize this, when a police officer goes to work, when I was a young police officer going to work, there were days I might have only 10 calls, and I have a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
I can tell you the current generation of officers, every day they go into work, they probably have 100 plus, maybe a couple hundred calls waiting. So they're just going from one call to the next to the next.
Yeah.
I always talk about the fact that we want to build these strong, trusting relationships. To do that, you have to spend time. But if you're only going from one incident to the next, and you don't have time to actually do the things that we're talking about, that's part of what we need to look at. And I'm saying not just police, I'm talking us as a culture, as a city. There are so many different things that impinge upon just the work that police do, many different variables. Sometimes we try to address just one piece, and that's not the solution. So we need to start looking at this more holistically.
And it doesn't seem to change, is going to change anytime soon. Like the police are overwhelmed, understandably, right?
Yes.
Meanwhile, you have these communities who feel real fear.
Yes.
So is believing that one day these racialized communities who arguably feel over-policed and one day the police are going to have this relationship of trust, is that just, are we aiming too high? Let's be real.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mr. Devon is giving us, is a very smart man. So there's a way is circling around. Everything he's saying is right. I'm not disagreeing, but I'm saying the police could fund and have more police who can come to the communities at least once a week. We come from Ericom, those areas, Ericom, North End, where there's a lot of immigrants. That's where they put most of the immigrants. But the truth is, they see police when an incident happened.
Correct.
So you have to understand, if I only see you when there's trouble, every time I see you, even if you just came to give me a Christmas hamper, I'm going to run away. Mr. Devon, you came to visit me at my mom's house. All my neighbors locked their doors because you were still chief of police.
And
this is a true story.
How much of this seems to be depending on one person, Devon Clunis? Like, I'm sure there are lots of other people, but it does feel like it seems to be dependent on just a few people who believe in this.
We put Mr. Clunis on the spot because he looks like us.
Yeah.
He's an immigrant. He knows the things that he came here when he's 12 years old. So most of the things I'm talking about, because he didn't become chief of police at 12 years old. So I'm putting him on the spot because he went through the things that most of us are going through.
But he's not in the police anymore.
He's not in the police anymore, but these are his friends. They drink coffee, they have emails, they have phone number. He can talk to them and say, hey man, you're putting me on the spot, try and change some things. That's what I'm saying.
You're correct. I can pick up the phone today and call the chief of police, call anyone in government, and we're going to have a conversation. So here is where my hope lies, though.
Yes.
You and I are having this conversation.
Yes, boss.
Nadia, I thank you for having this conversation. It is my hope and desire that we continue to have conversations like this. Do I believe we'll get to a place and time where racialized communities have that trust in the police? I absolutely do. I know that we were there, right?
Were we?
Absolutely. I fully believe that we were there. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I know that we can get there again. We most definitely will. We have to look at the last couple of years of what's happening in community, not just in terms of policing. We had George Floyd, then we have the pandemic where people were separated, isolated. They weren't having meaningful conversations. We're at a point where this city, this province, our country can lead in terms of building those relationships. The fastest growing segment of the Canadian population is immigrants coming in.
Yes.
That change is taking place. So yes, we have an opportunity to do it, and I do believe we'll get there. I'm making the commitment. The Lil's making the commitment.
I hope when we get there, Mr. Clunis, I hope when you get there, we haven't lost at least 500 black men, right?
I don't believe we will.
Because I don't know how fast you guys are moving, but I hope you move faster.
Well, hold on, but I'm going to challenge you here.
We have 1 minute.
It's not those guys. It's not the police. It's us.
Yes.
This is a joint responsibility between the entire community. So if we expect that change is only going to come from one segment, we lose. But if we realize it's all of us, we win.
That's what I'm saying. It's all of us if you guys involve with us.
Absolutely.
You're not coming to our communities, so there's no way we're having these conversations. There's no way we're having these relationships. So we're scared of you. You're scared of us. You're shooting us because of your safety. We're running away, coming to you with knives because of our safety. So it's going to be a circle and a circle and a circle.
Okay,
you guys have to start coming to our communities, give us Christmas hampers, have conversations with us. So when I meet you, Mr. Devon, I'm looking at a friend. I'm looking at an authority figure, but also a friend. But when I look at you as my enemy, I'm going to react the best way I know how to.
Thank you for that.
That's
You've
what I'm
given
saying.
us, as I said, a lot of issues, a lot of avenues to help resolve this. So thank you, Dalil.
Thank you, Mr. Devon.
Amazing conversation. Your 7-day forecast after the break. We'll be right back.
For Winnipeg and much of the Red River Valley, we could see another 5 centimeters tomorrow with this clipper moving through. Then things clearing a little bit into Friday, but we're going to get cold into the minus 20s for the weekend and feeling like the minus 30s with the wind a little bit. And getting into next week, though, there is a little bit of a reprieve here. We're back down likely into the minus teens as we get into next week. So cold, Janet, for the next few days here, but there is relief in sight.
Good to hear. Thank you so much, Ethan Williams. Well, snowplows and other heavy equipment's about to hit the streets in Winnipeg tonight. Crews asked drivers to use extreme caution around the heavy equipment. Other than the marked snow routes, overnight, no parking bans are in effect right now. They could be coming, though, next Tuesday. So remember that Know Your Zone app. You might want to download that. Get ready to make sure you don't get a ticket for parking in the wrong place, or worse yet, towed away. What stress that would be. Thank you for being with us. See you at 11 and again tomorrow night at 6.